This is the Korean War. The Korean War was a bloodbath fought between North Korea and South Korea, lasting from the 25th of June, 1950, to the 27th of July, 1953. Their patron countries backed their respective sides. China and the Soviet Union allied with North Korea. The United States and the United Nations allied with South Korea. At the time of the war, the 38th parallel, or the longitudinal line 38 degrees north of the equator, divided Korea into North Korea and South Korea. Both North and South Korea intended to reunite. However, North Korea attempted to do so by force. Thus, when North Korea attacked, the Korea War began. After 2 months of fighting, the South Koreans were on the point of defeat, despite the aid of U.S. troops. They were forced into a corner of South Korea. Therefore, a change of tactics was required. The U.S. troops, in conjunction with the newly arriving UN troops, created a two-pronged attack on North Korean troops. The U.S. troops attacked from behind, cutting off the supplies, while the UN troops defended and pushed back the North Korean troops away from the South Koreans. The UN and the US pushed all the way to the north, so close that the Chinese decided to join since they felt threatened. The two sides, Russia and China, versus US and UN, arrived at the middle ground, the 38th parallel, where neither side gained any ground. The war then ended on July 27th, 1953, after a massive bombing campaign, which ended in an armistice that was signed. This separated North Korea and South Korea into two defined places. So, where did Canada come in? Canada officially entered the Korean War as part of the United Nations troops. They sent 26,791 men and 8 destroyers. Canadian aircraft sent and transported men and supplies. Most of the Canadian involvement centered on a small area north of Seoul. One of the most important missions that Canada took part of was Operation Killer. The ultimate objective of Operation Killer was to push back the Communist Chinese and North Korean armies beyond the Han River and to recapture Seoul, the South Korean capital. With 900 Canadian soldiers, their first goal was to advance to Hill 404. Tragedy struck. The Canadian forces were flanked on both sides by the enemy. Despite this, they managed to survive and continue up the hill for high ground. On February 21st, they headed north to their assigned objective, Hill 419, which was guarded by the Chinese. Canadian casualties were high in this battle. The Chinese had the high ground, and Canadians took intense fire from all directions by cannons, rockets, and gunfire. Fortunately for the Canadians, the Australians took over Hill 619, which forced the Chinese to retreat. The operation ended in March 6, 1951. At the end of the war, 516 Canadians perished and over 1,200 were wounded. However, since the Korean War was overshadowed by the two world wars, many soldiers that fought in this war are forgotten, including the 516 who lost their lives. And this is the reason we studied the Korean War. Not to gain knowledge or stuff facts in our brain, but to remember the fallen and to honor their sacrifices.